Well, greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well, and welcome to, depending on wherever you may live or however you look at your clock, this early morning or middle of the night bonus. Before we jump into it, a couple links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. The audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support the channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost a cent. Click that like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads I put out daily, click that bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment. Why? Well, because all of these things really do help the channel to continue to grow and go. And yes, folks, they definitely do matter. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump in to this early morning or middle of the night bonus upload, shall we? All right, folks, the video evidence in this upload is rather old, and I will share it periodically because I don't want anyone to ever forget about it. There's been a lot of talk about it, that it's fake, that it's this, that it's not. You know, it's been almost 2 years, and this person has never resurfaced. I've actually, in a different video, proven that his death was legit and such. Even the channel that said it was a hoax never commented or never made another video saying, yeah, it's been a long time. He hasn't resurfaced. His wife is still making videos saying how much she misses him. You know, he could have easily came back on TikTok and, been a star. Said, hey, something happened. The government kidnapped me, yada, yada. But no, he's truly deceased. And I 100% believe the government was behind it. Today's first encounter. Hello everyone, I'm from Alexandria, Kentucky, and I saw something I cannot entirely explain. On the night in question, it was Midnight Madness at our school. It's basically some stupid football event during the summer, but everyone goes and sees people they haven't really seen in a while. I went with my 2 friends and one of their girlfriends. We got there at around 10:45 p.m. Me and my friends are getting bored of the event, and one of my friends shows up with dabs. For those of you who do not know, dabs are a concentrated form of weed. We get in my buddy's car and we're looking for a place to smoke. We're driving around this subdivision that had a thick forest all around it. We settled on this abandoned house and decided to smoke in the woods behind it. My friend is setting up his rig and we realized we had forgotten the water for it. A dab rig is basically a bong for dabs, and it needs water or else it'll be very harsh to smoke out of. Well, we had parked a little down the street so no one would get suspicious, and nobody wanted to walk back to the car because it was about a 5-minute walk back there. So I decide and go get the water. While I'm walking back, I heard scratching from behind a nearby house. It kind of freaked me out, but I thought it's probably just a dog or an animal or something. I make it to the car and grab the water and start heading back. As I'm walking by the house I heard the scratching, I began to hear it again. But then I heard what sounded like footsteps kicking up gravel, like when someone starts to try and run. I turned and I saw something that has kept me up for many nights. So I'm 6'2", 17-year-old guy, and I'm bigger than most. And this thing that I saw had easily beat me in height by 2 to 3 feet. It was slender, but with long, almost stretched out limbs. I couldn't really make out any more details because it was pretty dark. The creature was running from one backyard to the other. I never saw its face, only its body. It ran on 2 legs, but it was faster than any person I'd ever seen run. Hell, it was faster than anything I've ever seen. This creature made it from one backyard to the next, about 50 to 90 feet in 3.5 seconds. I was standing in the middle of the street 30 feet away. I stood there for a second in complete shock. Then I ran as fast as I could to my friends. I ran through thorns and brush to make it back to them. When I reached my friends, I told them what I saw. I'm not too sure if they believed me, but the panic in my voice was enough for them to know that I had seen something unusual. We all packed up the rig and got back to the car. I've been trying to find out what I saw. The 2 closest things I have seen on the internet are something called the Dover Demon or something called the Wood Devil. I never saw its face, so I'm not too sure what it was. I was 100% sober when I saw this creature, by the way. Today's second experience. I was active in the Boy Scouts of America for years, up until I was about 15 years old. Our troop was fairly small and poorly organized, with a scoutmaster who was an uninspired old man known to drink a lot. He had often drove us out to some remote locations in and around the Mount Hood National Forest area. We usually ended up being the only troop at campsites that were long neglected and poorly maintained at best. We never attended any scout jamborees. The one criteria that seemed to matter to him was the presence of some kind of single-occupancy shelter, like an old mini cabin or some standing structure that he could hold himself up in, with his little propane heater, folding cot, and some Canadian mist. We usually saw him twice a day for breakfast and dinner. The rest of the time, we fended for ourselves, and the dynamics of our troop sometimes devolved into something along the lines of the Lord of the Flies. During my time in that troop, on 2 occasions, my friend and I came across some very distinct, 5-toed, very human, very large prints. One grouping was located on a far side of a lake, accessible only by a canoe, which at one point we had to drag over a beaver dam. There was a muddy cove where the creek drained into the lake. We were marveling at the freshness of the various animal tracks imprinted in the mud, bear, deer, cougar, and or bobcat, when we noticed the improbable bear humanoid prints that were ridiculously large. We looked at them very closely, and I'll never forget observing the fine detail within these prints that were pressed in quite deep. My friend said at the time that the creases inside the prints looked similar to what you would see on your own palms or the bottoms of your own feet. Both my friend and I are aware of Bigfoot legends, and we never really took them too seriously. Shortly after inspecting the footprints, we both felt a little spooked and decided to hit the canoe and paddle back to our campsite. If someone had put in the effort to prank some Boy Scouts or campers with fake footprints, they chose a location almost guaranteed to never be noticed. That incident, along with another, much freakier one in a different location, greatly changed my mindset as to the likelihood of these creatures being all too real. The other freaky experience also didn't involve a sighting on my part, but it was one of those you'd have to have been there situations. This very well could have taken place during that camping excursion and location as to where my friend and I found those prints on the far side of the lake. If not then and there, it was around that same time period. It was after dinner and the sun was down, but the moon was pretty bright. 2 other guys my age went for a night hike, basically goofing around. One of those guys, Bruce, I also considered him a friend. He was in my grade. We attended the same school. Bruce was a tall, husky guy for his age. He had a mellow disposition and got good grades in school. He was also deaf, or significantly so, since he had one of those hearing aids that connected to a control box about the size of a pack of cigarettes. I never saw him use sign language, but he was effective at communicating with rough words and gestures. Anyway, Bruce and the other guy went for their hike, apparently intending to go down to the lake and back. They didn't bring anything with them, not even a flashlight. I don't believe they were gone for more than 45 minutes tops when they both came bursting back into the campsite area in total state of panic, bordering on hysteria. The other guy, I can't recall his name, was sobbing and shaking, kept frantically looking back in the direction they had just come from. What really alarmed me was seeing Bruce in tears as well. He had accrued a lot of deep woods camping experiences and was no wuss. Both of them were babbling over top of each other, making quite a commotion. It was enough to rouse our old troop leader from his hidey hole to see what was going on. We finally got some detail out of the guys, which was unsettling to everyone. Supposedly, they hadn't quite made it to the lake when Bruce felt someone or something pacing them, parallel to their path. They said whatever it was walking between the trees. At first, the other kid didn't pick up on it, and was bemused when Bruce kept trying to share what he was noticing. They kept walking for a bit until the other kid became aware of what Bruce had been trying to explain. Whatever was pacing them was lying down footfalls, massive enough to reverberate through the ground. I think what really scared them first was noticing how heavy the steps were, keeping pace with their own, as if it was stalking them. Whenever they stopped, it stopped. At some point, they reached a spot where there was a wider spacing between the trees. In the moonlight, they both saw a silhouette of a huge, tall, bipedal shape, 20 to 30 feet away, darting between the tree trunks. Bruce described it as taller than an NBA player, but way thicker than Andre the Giant. Where their stories diverged was after they both fled in panic. Bruce insisted that it didn't give chase, but his friend swore that he could hear it crashing through the foliage behind them most of the way back to camp. I should note that our ragtag scout troop included a couple of guys a bit older than the average age in our troop, who were full-on bullies and considered themselves badasses. Both of those douchebags, who would normally mock anyone for being a pansy, were visibly spooked by the drama, nervously shining their flashlights around the dark perimeter of our campsite. But of course neither of them volunteered to venture out and investigate. Our old scoutmaster looked a bit rattled as well, since this was not the typical drama he was used to having. I think seeing Bruce in such a state of fear had impacted him. I'm fairly certain he believed at least these two scouts saw something out of the ordinary, something that scared them very badly, thereby interrupting his evening date with his booze bottle. After things finally simmered down before retreating back to his personal space, he told us to make sure the fire was out and hit the racks. At the older campground, our accommodations were crude structures, like a cross between tiny log cabins and a yurt. There were no bunks or anything, just a floor of wood plank. The roofs were large squares of old canvas stretched or fastened across the top. Those yurt cabin structures were drafty and cold, very uncomfortable. It was at least a couple of hours before dawn when me and a couple of guys awoke to the sound or feeling of something walking around the campsite, at times getting very close to the yurts. I don't recall it feeling as being something massive or heavy, but two dogs were absolutely freaking out, howling and whimpering like their lives were in danger. Here's where my memory has some gaps. Our troop didn't travel with including dogs. My best recollection is that particular campground had some guy acting as a seasonal caretaker with a key to the gate, living in a shack or an old trailer a ways off from our camp, and he might have owned dogs. I just don't remember seeing this person at any point. Sure, the sounds we heard that morning could have easily been any number of cataloged critters, but the way those dogs sounded was very unsettling. I still recall how scared my friend Bruce was, as he frantically tried to describe what he had seen. That normally mellow guy looked like he had just witnessed something very frightening. The guy was literally in tears, extremely convinced of what he had seen. For whatever reason, I'm assuming that night, Bruce didn't stick around our troop that long. Maybe just one or more camp at most. Over the following years, I saw him a few times in the school hallway, but never had the chance to ask him to elaborate on what happened that night. Today's third encounter. On Saturday, March 28th, 2020, my friend, my mom, and myself all were at the Land Between the Lakes recreation area. We were hiking in the area of Elk and Bison Prairie. We accessed one of the nearby trails and entered the woods, but before we reached the woods, I noticed a long, wide print on the ground. The print wasn't deep, but there was a distinct outline in which I was able to place both the palms of my hands in. I didn't have my phone with me, and I got the attention of a ranger who was nearby. The ranger looked at the print and acted puzzled by it. I asked if he had ever seen anything similar before. The ranger didn't answer me, but kind of shrugged his shoulders. So we continued on the trail. 15 minutes later, I noticed a creature on the trail about 70 yards ahead of us. The trail is on a rise, so whatever this creature was, it was backlit by the horizon. At first, I was sure that this was quadruped, a large coyote. As we watched this thing, this creature stood on its hind legs while looking right at us. This thing was an upright canine that stood at least 7 feet tall. The head was that of a coyote, but much larger. The arms and legs were canine-like, but very muscular. Its chest was broad, and its color was darker than a coyote. After 15 seconds or so, this creature turned and ran in the opposite direction at great speed. My mom and friend ran back up the trail. I stayed back for a bit, but then realized the creature was so fast that it could easily double back and cut us off on the trail. Realizing that, I ran towards my mom and friend. We never saw it again after that. The next part of the upload is that video clip I was telling you guys about. I'm going to give you kind of a brief rundown of the video, and I did have to remove 2 songs in the video. The clip is there, but the music is gone. I had to take the music out, and unfortunately, by taking the music out, I had to take what he was saying in that brief kind of section out as well. At around the 1 minute 15 second mark, he says, "That was not there yesterday." And then he gets pulled over. In the video, he videos a giant humanoid on top of a mountain. He sees something getting extracted off of the mountain with helicopters. Who told us about military using helicopters to extract cryptids? Then he is driving, and probably, I think it's the 1 minute 43 to 53 section right before he talks. You see kind of this thing in the air, and he's like, "What is that? What is that? WTF?" But it was playing like the X-Files music behind it. And then he states something. Then there's another clip where he states something again. And at the end, it states that he's no longer with us. I had my daughter's 14 and better on TikTok than I am. Look into this. And he is no longer on TikTok. He is deceased. So it's either a very, very good hoax, or this is compiled evidence of the government silencing someone.
What is it?
It's a person, dude. No, seriously, pull over, pull over. Okay, I'm gonna use this as a tripod to try to keep it steady for you guys. And it's not even there anymore, too. That's where it was yesterday. There's a person standing there.
No, it's not.
Dude, if you've seen what I've seen right now, I spoke to some locals and it comes and goes apparently. I don't know. See, that's me trying to keep it super steady with something. There we go. Do you know how hard it is to keep it steady when zoomed in all the way? What's going on?
Road's closed. Turn around.
Really?
Yeah, man. Just turn around, please.
Okay. Have a good night, man. So that was fucked up. So they're extracting something out of here. There's 2 helicopters. What the fuck? Sorry to disappoint you guys, but all of the videos that I posted were scripted. They're just fake. They were just strictly for entertainment. Sorry to disappoint you guys. I just needed to give you a quick update. You might not see me post ever again. My videos weren't fake. I think that's the same vehicle from... Hey!
So, like I said, I had my daughter look into the guy's TikTok, and there's just something's very strange about it. It could be a very good hoax, and he just stopped completely doing TikTok or whatever. Or really, this is proof that the government is silencing content creators who are bringing the truth out there. I'm not really sure. There's just a lot of stuff going on, and I do think it's a compilation of everything that he had on his TikTok, but it's all in one area, which is very, very strange and very unnerving. You guys decide. I have my own decision or my own opinion of it, and I'll leave it up to you guys to make your own opinion. Today's 4th experience. I'm really not exactly sure what I saw. This happened earlier this fall. I live in a rural town in northwestern Connecticut. The area is said to have haunted woods around it, something to do with a town where all the townfolk disappeared in the late 1700s. There was a lot of quarrying and mining in the area. Some say that the groundwater got contaminated by the mining activity. Others say a demonic force is in the woods and the townfolk were being possessed. Either way, the townspeople moved, leaving a deserted town that ghost hunters love to go to. The area has a lot of abandoned open mica pit mines, as well as a handful of abandoned cobalt mines that are a couple 100 feet deep. To my knowledge, there has never been any sightings of crawlers or anything supernatural, except for orbs in photos, and people who go there say it's dead silent. I was at a car show at the local VFW. The property butts up to a forest where this haunted town sits. It's about a 20-minute walk through the woods to get to the town. The car show was big, maybe 30 to 40 cars spread out in the parking lot. The lot has a parking to the side of the building, and then you go around to the back of the building, and there's more parking. I'd parked on the street and was making my way through the show from front to rear. As I came around the building, I felt uneasy, as if I was being watched. I looked into the woods, but I didn't see anything, so I continued looking at the cars. As I got closer to the tree line, I kept looking into the woods, certain that there was something out there. And that's when I saw it. I looked to my left, and there were 3 Chrysler K cars, all immaculately restored as if they had just rolled off the production line. Standing, or rather crouching, were 5 or 6 white beings, on all fours, clicking and seemingly in conversation with each other. One, realizing I had seen him, quickly snapped his head in my direction. He was looking directly at me. The group was about 25 feet from me. At that moment, panic took over and I ran. I got to my car, drove home, and locked the doors. I've been trying to pretend it never happened, convincing myself it was all a hallucination. I don't know if these beings' curiosity caused them to come out of the woods. I guess that's one thing I'll never find out. Tonight's final experience. Before my encounter happened, as a family, we were hearing growls around the house. And, strange thing is we live in an ordinary estate. The estate is called Fairfield, and there are lots of homes there, but there are also acres of fields only up the path and lots of farmland. The first growling incident happened when my mom was taking the garbage out one night. This would have been in the late 90s. Like most people, we have a weekly rubbish pickup. So my mom was taking the bins out late one night. As she did so, she heard a loud growl. Not recognizing the noise, she at first thought it was the wheel on the bin itself grinding on something, but the growl happened again and she stopped. To be honest, it freaked her out. Then there was another occasion when my mom was taking our dogs for a walk with my brother, and they both saw an upright big animal that was running across the fields close to our home, and it was jumping over a dry stone wall as it fled. My mom said it was running very fast. In the early 90s, I believe 1995, my other brother worked at a local chicken factory up Harper Hill in Buxton. One shift, he was having a cigarette outside, and he said he was standing there and he saw a huge dog on its back legs rummaging through this bin. Now, it was one of those large industrial bins with the lid, and my brother said this huge dog was using its hands to pick up the chicken. Also, it must have lifted that bin lid to get in there and search for food. I remember my brother being shocked when he told us what happened. I was still a kid, as he was 17 at the time of this happening. Understandably, the whole experience scared him. He said this huge dog was bigger than our dogs, and we always had German Shepherds and Doberman Pinschers. So my brother is used to big dogs, and this must have been really big for him to think it was huge. Fast forward to the early 2000s. I was getting the laundry off the clothesline in the garden. I remember it was summer, just about 10 p.m., so it was dark out. My German Shepherd, Cody, was looking at something just outside of the garden. I couldn't see anything or make anything out, but then I heard a loud growl as though something was standing right next to my ear. My brother said, "You heard that, right?" I exclaimed that I did, and it was close to my ear. So we got our older brother to come outside with us because we were terrified, but it didn't happen again when he was with us. Then on New Year's Day in the early hours of the morning, I had come in from a night out. It was maybe 2 a.m. by then. I was in the kitchen with my mom, and we used to leave the kitchen sink window open for our house cats to come in and out during the night. We noticed the cats didn't want to go out. My mom said, "Shut the window." I went over to the window and leaned over the sink to shut the window because it was open wide. And as I did, I saw something strange. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Something was there. It was an all-white werewolf-looking creature. It was crouched down under the window as though it was looking in at us, and it just looked at me, and I looked at it. I don't think it was expecting to be seen. I couldn't believe it. I could clearly see it. And it didn't have a long snout. It had a short snout. It looked more like an old wolfman creature rather than the dog soldier type of werewolves or dogmen. It's like the wolf that I've seen in pictures. All of the gray wolves looked like him, and his eyes were exactly like theirs. Its ears were not on top of its head. They were at its side. I was shocked. I backed up and said to my mom, I just saw a werewolf. The strange thing was, I didn't feel overly threatened by it, and then I thought better and shut the window in case it decided to come through. So I looked again and it was gone. Luckily, one of those things that came into my mind when I saw it was, you're not supposed to exist. I've only ever told close family about this, and unfortunately, not a lot of people believe these things exist. My mom had 2 encounters when she was about 12 and she lived in Glossop. But the way she described the creatures she saw, I would say they sound more like Bigfoot creatures. The first time this happened, my mom used to go to the local river with her dog. She was on her way home and it was dusk. She said she was late home because she couldn't get her dog out of the water as he was enjoying himself too much. So this night she was out later than usual. This took place up near Gamesley behind a Roman fort that's up there. Anyway, Mom said she heard a noise. It was a crashing and rustling sound that was coming up the embankment from the river. My mom moved off, and as she walked past the bush, she saw this very tall, well-built, really wide, upright animal, and it looked like it had no neck. It was on her right-hand side, and Mom said it was doing hand gestures, and it went into the woods. Her dog never barked at it, and Mom ran home. The next encounter she had with this creature was when my mom was walking home on the same pathway. Again, she was walking from the river with her dog. It was dusk again, and she saw the creature again. Like before, it was walking upright. It was a different one this time because it had a cone-shaped head, and it was jet black with tan-colored face. This one was walking toward the same woods the other one disappeared into. The thing was that my mom's dog chased this one and was barking at it around its legs, and it just turned around and my mom shouted, "I'm sorry," which is kind of funny. She shouted to the dog to come back, and the creature just went into the woods, just like the other one had. To clarify, the first creature was brown in color with longish hair. When my mom saw the first creature, the shock knocked her on her ass. She said it startled her that much. My sister saw a massive dog when she was walking her dog with her boyfriend. She said that this huge dog she saw was near the Abbey in Gorton, just behind Abbey Lane. My sister said it was some kind of huge dog. It was massive, and my sister has grown up with large dogs like me, and she said it was black and her dog was barking at it. When this happened, the massive dog leapt into some brush, which is strange behavior for a dog. Alright folks, that was the middle of the night or early morning bonus. I hope you all enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. I'd like to thank you all for supporting the channel. It is, after all, your support that keeps the channel growing and going, and honestly what gives people a chance and a place to share their experiences and theories judgment-free, just simply treated with the respect that we all deserve. Thank you. Everyone stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, pets, family, and friends. These creatures are real. They are out there and they are dangerous. Share this information with the people you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions. Never stop searching for the truth, and God bless.